I've recorded just within the span of a couple of days, and it was really enjoyable to do the first one with that review of Lord Rear Admiral, even though the first bit of the review was complete trash. I had to delete it. It was still fun to do that. And now, something like 6 years, I think? Maybe more than that, since the first video review I did. The equipment has gotten a little bit better. The editing capabilities have gotten a little bit better, for me anyway. And so it was really enjoyable to sort of see what is possible in terms of just putting things together and editing them in a little bit more creative way than just saying start, stop, throw it up on YouTube. I know the last review was pretty low quality, and I don't know why. I recorded in a much higher resolution than what was shown on the video on YouTube, so I'm not sure. I'm using some different equipment this time, and I'll fiddle around with the video export settings, and we'll see if maybe that solves the problem. Anyway, let's get to the beer. Today I'm going to review Tapistry Brewing's Mr. Orange. And Mr. Orange bills himself as a Belgian-style wit beer with blood oranges, rose hips, and chamomile. I went for this one both because it's bright orange and it stands out on the shelf. It's from Tapistry, which is just up the road a little bit, up in Bridgman, Michigan. Although, this is such a petty thing to say and kind of a mean thing to say, but I don't like their logo. The logo is almost sort of 90s and not in an ironic, aren't we cute kind of way. I just don't like it. But that's really minor and dumb, and they'd probably say, well, we don't like you either, which is a fair point as well. But in addition to the color that stands out on the shelf, I wanted to do something that is maybe not necessarily my natural inclination to drink if I was ordering at a restaurant. And so, wit beer, okay, I can get on board with that. Blood oranges, all right. But rose hips and chamomile, that doesn't sound great to me, especially chamomile. Chamomile tea can be okay every once in a while if there's some citrus in it too. But, well, maybe the blood orange will balance it out. But typically chamomile is just not really a great flavor profile for me. So let's see if it ends up working out in this. Mr. Orange comes in at, I think, 5.5% alcohol, so not a heavy hitter there. Nothing like the Lord Rear Admiral. This is in a pint-sized can. And I know that Tapistry is not a huge brewery, so I don't think they have 12-ounce cans. They probably just do the one-size can. There you go. You can even see right there where it is on the mitt that is Michigan, down there on the lake and fairly close to South Bend. So let's give it a shot. Once again, uh-oh. See, I turned it around all that. Rotating it, doing all that. Once again, not fussing with glass. Here we go, just a pint glass. I did not expect that. I should not have turned it sideways and rotated it and done so much to agitate it, because now I'm paying the price. So what I will do is, well, I guess I'll just sit here and wait, and then eventually it will calm down and we can carry on with the review. Alright, so I have managed to solve the problem of that massive foaming issue. Here's where we are right now. There's a little bit more left in the can. This is the pint-sized can, which of course in beer terms doesn't mean small, like if it was referring to a person. But anyway, so now it looks quite a bit better, and it's got that classic wit beer look to it, sort of a pale straw. What a pretentious term. I mean, it's pale, and you can't see through it. That's pretty typical for wit beer. The head is sort of, it has a depth, but you can tell that it's not super thick on its own. I snuck a sip before I started recording again just to try it out, so let's do it here. Well, there's the chamomile. At first taste, I don't think it has changed my mind on chamomile, but then again, it's not supposed to right out of the gate. Blood orange, I don't get any of that right now. Maybe as it heats up, that will be a feature. I don't see that right now. Rose hips, I will admit, I have no idea what rose hips taste like. When I looked it up earlier to think, you know, what does a rose hip plant actually look like, I certainly had never seen the plant before, or not that I can remember anyway. But the information that I was gathering on it said that this is sort of used to make rose-flavored other stuff, especially in parts of the world where that is a more common flavoring. So even with that in mind, that doesn't come through here either. I don't get that kind of floral taste or aroma that you would come to expect with something that claims to have rose hips. Maybe a little bit, just there on the back end, not super in your face. This has a nice effervescence to it. It drinks lighter than it looks. You know, typically when I look at something that's opaque, I think it's probably going to have quite a bit of heft to it. I don't think that's necessarily the case, and I'm sure you can't see it because I don't have that great of a camera, but a lot of bubbles going on here, coming right off the bottom there. So still doing a lot of effervescing. I don't know, but it really is contributing to that light feel, I think. I think the sweetness is going to die down the more that you drink this, and that is both a function of temperature, although, you know, I've been talking for, what, 2 or 3 minutes. We haven't had that great of a temperature change here. But just as your palate gets used to it, maybe, to me anyway, it borders on the cloying right at the beginning, and so I'm kind of prepared for that. And it doesn't seem quite as sweet right now. It has a little bit of a metallic tang to it. That I don't like. It's not a deal breaker. I'm not going to stop drinking the beer. Even if someone gave it to me for free, I would finish it. But it has a metallic tang that I'm not a huge fan of. Hey, maybe that's the blood of the blood orange. I'm not that funny, I know. Blood orange, I still don't get any of it, and that's really disappointing. The can, it's bright orange. It's called Mr. Orange. It says blood orange, and I don't get any orange yet. Let me try it again. There may be just the thinnest hint of orange at what, in my mind, feels like the mid stage of a sip. Not right as soon as it hits your lips, not after you've swallowed, but just sort of as it's all going down. Maybe just the thinnest, really watery orange. You know, like if you go down to Kroger and you buy an orange in like December and it didn't come from somewhere tropical, that kind of orange. Which is to say that it's noticeable, maybe. I could have just been thinking about it so hard that I thought I tasted it, but it's not super hit you over the head orange flavor. That's not going to be part of the flavor profile. There's a metallic tang again. I think that this beer is something that if you enjoy the wit beer style, it would be just fine. I don't think necessarily that you would go running for it. I think if I wanted this particular beer, or this particular style of beer, I would probably just go for the mass-produced version that's on the shelf. And it rhymes with Bo Barton, I think, anyway. This is just not my style, I think, and it's not something that I'm going to return to. But just to give myself some time to let it warm up a little bit, I was thinking about, there's the map on here of where this is in Michigan, which is the southwest corner of Michigan. There are quite a few breweries in that area. This is Tapistry. You also have Shorts. You have Silver Harbor. You have Round Barn, which is something that doesn't get a very wide distribution, so if you're not in this area, there's a low chance you're going to get it. There are a few more in the area that I'm just forgetting. But also a really growing beer restaurant scene as well. And so this is a really interesting part of the country if you like beer, because there are so many options. Even in South Bend, the offerings have increased enormously since I ended up in town. And even thinking back to when I was making the first videos, I don't know that we had more than one local brewery, and then maybe another one that's sort of way up on the other side of town. But now we have at least two more, and they're doing really well, which I think is a really good indicator of both the local economy and just sort of understanding what that market wants. We have a brewery that opened very near to us a couple of years ago, and it's always very busy, which is a great thing to see. But one thing that I would note is that, this was not really up my alley. And since we are in such a beer concentrated area, there are so many other offerings around that it's a little risky to sort of get outside of what is really popular on the market and put a beer out there that might turn somebody off from your brewery altogether. Now, I know for a fact that Tapistry makes beers that I really like. They have a New England IPA that I had a couple of months ago. I don't know if it's a regular offering or just if it was a sort of a limited time thing, but I really enjoyed that. And so I know that Tapistry has beers that I like. But with that in mind, it was a New England IPA. You can get a New England IPA anywhere right now, or a hazy IPA, or whatever. Those are really popular. And so in some ways, it's not really risky for a brewery to make something like that, because even if it maybe isn't to someone's exact taste, it's not going to turn you off from the brewery altogether. I will admit, if Mr. Orange was the first beer I had from Tapistry, I don't know that I would reach for them again unless there were no other great options on the shelf, or if I happened to be in the area and we were going to go to the brewery and have lunch and try their beers or something, then maybe I would do it. But there's a real risk here that I wouldn't come back to it. Let's try it again. Maybe in the past couple of minutes it will have changed my mind. Warming up, maybe it's growing on me a little bit. And I'm going to finish it because I paid for it, and I'm too cheap to throw something away that I paid for. I forgot to read the little blurb on the label like I did with Lord Rear Admiral, so let me do that quickly as we wrap up here. Combining artistry and chemistry. Tapistry Brewing Company is committed to our customers. Our goal is to create consistent, quality, handcrafted beers focused on style. I'm not sure what else you would focus on. Located a mile from Lake Michigan, Bridgman is where we call home. Stop in and enjoy. Okay, fair enough. I mentioned something about Munster not being a major city in the last episode, and also South Bend not being a major city. Bridgman, I can assure you, is not a major city in Michigan. But I think that what breweries can do for small towns like that is really give them a draw that they may not otherwise have. And I will give myself plenty of, what's the word I'm looking for here, credentials for saying such things, because I've lived in plenty of places that don't necessarily have something to draw outsiders on a really obvious basis. I've always enjoyed living in these places, but I can understand why somebody would drive through and never think to stop. Bridgman is one of those places too, I think. I don't live there now. But anyway, with something like Tapistry in town, my complaints about the label and the beer and blah, 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 me being finicky notwithstanding, a local brewery really can be a driver of, if nothing else, just sort of a sense of pride in a town. I have no idea what sort of economic impact one craft brewery can have on a town. There is only such and such a size of the population that is going to go to that brewery and buy their food and buy their beers. Typically, with craft breweries, you don't have a huge number of employees, so it's not like you're propping up the local economy on that basis. But I think that just having that kind of a draw is it's a really great asset for small towns to have. And so, if nothing else, kudos to Tapistry for doing that. And I hasten to add that I've said a lot of negative things about this beer and sort of insinuated some negative things about Tapistry. I don't mean to dog them at all. This beer just is not my style, I don't think. I think if you like wit beer, you would go to Tapistry, you would see it on the menu, you would order it, and you'd be very happy to have it. It's just not my style. But I am glad that they departed from the IPA path. When I was at the store the other day looking for something to buy for the show, I didn't count, but it seemed like upwards of 90, 92, 93% of every beer on the shelf is some iteration of an IPA. And it's getting to the point now where it doesn't really matter for me what is in front of the letters IPA. All kinds of crazy descriptors, all kinds of different claims that they can make, and it all kind of blends together for me because everyone is trying to make some sort of variation on the IPA, and I think that's kind of a shame because beer encompasses so many styles. I really like beer. I'm not a huge fan of wit beer, but a lot of people are, and so that's a style that could be pursued. Now, I realize this. I'm recording this in late April. We're going into late spring, we're going into summer, and guess what's going to be on the shelf constantly from now until about the middle of September? It's all going to be IPA. So I'm sure that we're going to have a few of those here on the reviews in the next couple of weeks. But I will be sort of going off the range and trying to get something else to review as well, because I think that variety is what makes beer worth drinking. If we just drink IPA all the time, I don't know how exciting that is, and I'm in this for the variety. Tapistry, Mr. Orange, I think it's a fairly good standard wit beer if you like wit beer. If you're on the fence, I think maybe Mr. Orange is not the one for you. I wish Tapistry all the best, and I look forward to drinking some of their other beers. Thanks for joining me.